Thank you very much. Welcome everyone to our webinar. It's nice to see so many people. This is the second episode of our webinar series on forest and climate transparency, which is a collaboration between the International Forestry Student Association and our partner FAO. I'm Julika, I'm the IFSA Commissioner for the FAO Subcommission, and I have the pleasure to lead you all through the webinar today. And with me is Nicolas, who's the head of the FAO Subcommission in IFSA, and Rocio, which is the FAO Forestry Officer working on the Enhanced Transparency Framework and also coordinating the capacity building initiative for transparency work related to the forest sector, which we will also talking about today. Maybe a bit about the webinar series that we are organizing. We focus on experiences related to the development and use of national forest monitoring systems. And those systems are very important to measure, report, and verify goals under the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, as well as also provide better forest data to efficiently support decision-making and domestic policies. So FAO had a project for a capacity building initiative for transparency work related to the forest sector to address several concerns regarding deforestation, forest degradation, and also threats through climate change and negative impacts. And in our webinar series, we had already had the pleasure to learn about some case studies. In our first episode, we learned about Chile and Costa Rica, and we will also have a third episode about Papua New Guinea. And today we talk about the progress in Africa, specifically a case from Ghana. That's why we also have our speaker here today, Jacob Amoako. I'm very pleased that you're here with us. He works for the Forestry Commission of Ghana, studied natural resource management and applied agricultural and forest science, and is currently in his final year of his PhD in climate change and land use. He has a lot of experience in different fields like forestry and natural resource management, climate change mitigation and adaptation, GIS, remote sensing, and many more. So I'm very curious what he will tell us about today. And right now he's also working with the Forestry Commission of Ghana as the focal point for REDD+ measurement, reporting, and verification. So he has a lot of experiences in forest prevalence, level establishment, and monitoring of performances for REDD+ programs. And he's actually also a member of the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change roster of experts. And what I would also like to add, and what I think is very nice, he's also an IFSA alumni. So Jacob has been part of IFSA, and I'm very happy to see you now in an IFSA webinar sharing your knowledge with some students that are now engaged in IFSA and also people around that. Shortly introducing what we will be talking about today, we have a case study from Ghana. As I said, Ghana has long been implementing REDD+ activities and is right now designing and implementing a national forest monitoring system. So we are right on spot. And this forest monitoring system acts as a source for land use and forest data, providing information and communication on REDD+ activities, and also plays a key role in the management and planning of other related sectors, such, for example, as the cocoa sector, which is also very important in Ghana. I don't want to talk too much about it. We will now get a presentation from Jacob for around 30 minutes, and then we will have time for questions from your side. So if you have any questions, you can already write them in the chat. We will have time after the presentation, but you can also just ask them after the presentation directly. And as you might have noticed, we are recording the session to be able to share the webinar later on through the FAO and IFSA platforms. So thank you all for being here. Thank you, Jacob, for your time. And the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Julika, and thank you everyone for connecting. So I'll share my screen so that you can all see the presentation. Please, you can alert me if you have seen the presentation. Great. So as Julika rightly introduced, today happens to be the second episode on the progress in Africa, the case Ghana, how we are also trying to establish a multi-purpose national forest monitoring system. And I'm great today speaking to IFSA community, having been part of this wonderful family for a while now. So just a brief on Ghana's process. We see the RED Plus as a global program to reduce the emissions of greenhouse gases from deforestation and forest degradation, and also on the enhancement bits. We have 4 different sections in our RED Plus strategy, which we launched in 2016. But the fourth aspect of that looks at how Ghana can have a full tracking system of all the different components within our RED Plus strategy, which I'll be talking about shortly. Our Ghanaian economy is highly dependent on agriculture, and we all know that agric is also very climate sensitive and relies heavily on these ecosystem services like the nutrient cycling, the rainfall, and all of that. And RED Plus, we believe, provides the opportunity to mitigate the climate change and also make our agriculture and forestry sector very resilient to the impact that climate change brings. And not just on that front, but also being a game changer that is helping, first of all, we manage our forests sustainably, and also having the ability to attract carbon finance through our performance-based records. So I'll share more on the RED Plus strategy. So as I earlier mentioned, the strategy of Ghana, it's highlighted in 5 different programs, which we launched in 2016. Within the programs, we have the Ghana Cocoa Forest RED Plus program, which has been launched. We have the Ghana Shared Landscape Emission Reduction Program, which has also been launched, and the 2 are in the implementation stages. Then we have 3 upcoming programs, which we call the Coastal Mangrove RED Plus program, the Togo Plateau, and also the High Forest Transition RED Plus program. And I'll be showing you in terms of context where these programs can be seen. So the topmost parts of it is the Savannah program, where the Shared Landscape Emission Reduction Program is happening. And the one highlighted in blue below, where the High Forest Zone of Ghana is where the cocoa program is. The remaining area are where we are looking at bringing in some different projects. So looking at the trajectory, what Ghana has gone through so far, the whole journey for us as a country started in 2008, and when we submitted our readiness project idea notes, which was approved in 2008. And over that period, we've had support from the World Bank carbon partners to establish the various systems that will make the country readily prepared to participate in RED Plus. So where we went into establishing the safeguards information system, developing our RED Plus strategy, and also the National Forest Monitoring System, and having our forest reference level established. All of these different processes had to go through within the readiness phase. And in 2017, Ghana was able to submit the first emission reduction program document to the Carbon Fund portfolio, which was also approved later. And now, along the line, we've been able to submit also to the Green Climate Fund in 2020, which we also had approval for the Shared Landscape Program. And we've had other interest coming in. And as I speak, I'll be telling you of the successes that we've chalked along the way so far. So it has been a long journey, but it has also been worth waiting and going through all of these processes. The first program I would want to talk about is the Ghana Cocoa Forest RED Plus program, which is our premier program that is doing very well. And I should say that has already achieved some very good strides out there. And this program is coordinated by the Forestry Commission and also by the Ghana Cocoa Board. And the whole idea of this program is looking at how we can improve land use and socioeconomic development within the high forest zone, because we know that cocoa is the backbone of our economy in terms of the GDP contribution. And it's also a very big culprit in terms of deforestation and forest degradation. So how do we improve on intensifying the yields that farmers get in the same piece of land, and also adopting climate smart practices rather than expanding into new forest frontiers? So this is the goal of this program. And we are looking at about $50 million as payments from the World Bank if you're able to generate the commensurate emission reductions. And we estimated that as a country, we are looking forward to reducing or contributing to about 10 million tons of CO2 equivalents over 6 years. And as I said, the rationale behind this program, the Ghana Cocoa Forest Replant Program, first of all, we are looking at how do we curb illegal timber harvesting, the mining menace in the country, and how we also help farmers to incorporate shade trees in their cocoa farming systems, and making the cocoa sector very climate resilient while sustaining and enhancing income and livelihood opportunities for our farmers. In the long term, we are looking at how the emission reductions within this landscape contribute to the attainment of Ghana's nationally determined contribution targets, which we've also submitted to the UNFCCC. So this is to give you an idea of where the program for the cocoa program is happening. So this is on the land of 5.9 million hectares within the high forest zone where cocoa does very well. In achievement so far for the cocoa program, we've established a very robust and transparent benefit sharing plan, which has been finalized and it's also disclosed. We've also helped farmers add additional and alternative livelihood supports that have been provided to cocoa farmers. And for the program, we've been able to increase cocoa yield from 450 to 500 mkg per hectare through the implementation of climate smart agricultural practices. And the government also negotiated for an upfront advance payment to help us with the implementation of the various activities under the implementation of the project. And I'm very, very glad to say that as a country among the top ones in Africa who have demonstrated and verified emission reductions with about 972,000 tons of CO2 equivalent. And this has generated a resource-based payment of $4.8 million. And this is a very good achievement for Ghana. And I should say that when I get to the sharing part of this proceeds, we see how it is going back to the communities to support sustainable forest management. Now to the issue of multi-purpose national forest monitoring system. As a country that is participating in this REDD+ mechanism, and one of the Warsaw framework conditions is to have a very transparent and robust national forest monitoring system that is able to give out the data sets that we are using behind all of these emission reduction calculations, and how we can track the progress of our forest management temporally and also spatially. So as a country, we developed what we call the Framework for National Forest Monitoring System, which serves as a blueprint to guide our operations and to know what, as a country, we want to monitor and how we want to monitor it. So this is what is serving as the guide for us to develop our National Forest Monitoring System. The country has already had the support, and we are starting with compiling all of these different data sets that sits in the different institutions and offices within country. And as I speak, we have a prototype of this developed, which we call the Ghana National Forest Monitoring System. It's a web-based platform that it's providing the different data sets that goes into the emission reduction calculations. This has not been yet been live. We are still in the development stage. I'll share the link that people that are interested to look at it and also give their comments can do so. And on that platform, you have access to the forest reserve boundaries, the different land uses, and also the mapped cocoa farms and all of that, that one can have analysis on the fly to look at what changes is happening within the forest landscape. we just not interested in monitoring the forest, but also what are the safeguards that go with this forest monitoring. So we also have, as part of it, the safeguards information system, which is also web-based, very transparent. People can sit in their offices, homes, and schools, and also want to look at the indicators and how Ghana is respecting safeguards as we implement REPLAS activities in country. And we are looking at how to link the safeguards information system to the National Forest Monitoring System to also provide a social context in how we are managing Ghana's forest. And in tracking the progress of emission reduction, Ghana also has what we call the Ghana Carbon Registry, which is looking at tracking all the emission transactions within the country and even across the country in terms of the different projects within the different sectors of the economy. And I've provided a website to this. People can feel free to look at this and also share their thoughts on that areas of development with us. So as part of the forestry monitoring, as I said, we are looking at both the spatial and temporal changes in the forest and the carbon stocks in the different pools and land uses. So first of all, in the first image, you see a sample-based data collection exercise, which I'll be talking about with support from FAO. Ghana is also very well involved with the collected sampling approach in assessing our forest cover. And we don't just do this, we also look at the different pools and what it's having as carbon content. So we are having all of this also ongoing. And diversity in terms of gender is also very key when we are doing this kind of activity. And you can see the forest inventory activities ongoing in the different picture frames. We've received a lot of support, and I should say that we are very appreciative as a country to the global community, international bodies, private sector that will come to our aid in helping us build a robust system in, first of all, monitoring the changes within our forest and also helping us to report them rightly. And as of now, we have support from the Food and Agriculture Organization, helping us to plan a national forest inventory, which would update our emission factors that have been owed, because over the years, Ghana has done just few inventories, the last of which happened between 2010 and 2012. And as the climate change continues, the boundaries of our ecological zones also keep shifting, and we need to update the emission factors on the carbon stocks that we use for our emission estimations. Now with the portal that I demonstrated earlier, we are having support from some private sector players to help develop the web portal for the National Forest Monitoring System. And as I also alluded to earlier, we've had training on the use of the open forest tools, which is developed by the FAO, on Collect Earth, on CEPAL, on how to monitor our forest landscape and how the changes are happening. And the FAO also supports us with the analytical work on the estimation bit on the emissions. And now we've also had interest from other national institutions like the United States Forest Service of the Department of Agriculture, also helping the country on training on forest monitoring with synthetic aperture radar and in terms of fire mapping and all of that. And we have also support coming from the Coalition for Rainforest Nation, that they helped us to develop our national forest reference emission rate levels. And all of these different components have equipped the country national experts so much that we are able to take on these processes to develop the tools for forest monitoring and also to report appropriately and transparently. And all of these support, as I said, is still helping us to report very transparently, because once we are going into the carbon markets with voluntary and compliance, we need to first of all monitor, then report transparently before validation and verification of these emissions can be done. In terms of gender participation, our country, I would say, has done enormously well. If you look at the office where I sit, the Climate Change Department of the Forestry Commission, We have almost a gender balance, 50-50 almost, 10 ladies or women against 11. And this is very, very forward-looking as a country, having the people in charge of coordinating all of these forest monitoring systems, being very gender sensitive. In terms of age dynamics, as I'm speaking to the IFSA group, which mostly we are youthful, I'm glad to also talk about how youthful our team here is. With a graph on the right, you can see that our age dynamics, and averagely, I would say the age is within the 30 to 40 years bracket. And this is very forward-looking, looking at the number of years the people in charge now will be helping the country develop systems that will stand for the test of time. So I'll say that as a country, we are very much interested in building the capacity of young people like us within IFSA and young people that are in the early stages of their career, and also bringing in even those that have recently graduated, giving chance to interns and also the national service personnel within the country that do come to work with us as Forestry Commission, because we believe that the future is the youth, and we need to bring them in and equip them, build their capacity, and make sure that they're able to take up the mantle when the older generation have left the scene. In all of our various RED Plus engagement, gender is a very critical part as a safeguard issue. And you can see we have gender-focused group discussions where our women group are separated and the men group are also separated, so that people are able to speak freely, contribute to whatever they think is their issues regarding RED Plus implementation and participation. And this has gone on a long way to help us to understand the process better and to tweak things that we know wasn't working well, and helping bring everyone on board, because we believe in inclusive participation and also socially inclusive, bringing everyone on board to help solve the issues on the ground. In the inclusive participation in the RED Plus process, we always want to engage the communities at the forefront of resource management. The last picture in the bottom part, you see we go to the field to even communicate with the land users. The more people that we do, we still take it to them for QAQC, the quality assurance and quality control, and also for validation, to ask them, they know their landscape, they know the changes that is happening. So we do go back to them whenever we do the land use map. And stakeholder engagement has been also very crucial part of our processes. And you can see we invite people from diverse occupation, people that have a role to play one way or the other in forest monitoring. So our National Forest, Ghana Fire Service, with the Environmental Protection Agency chiefs and traditional authorities, all of these different people come into play in contributing their part towards forest monitoring. And when it comes to going to the field, as you can see with the picture, we take safety very seriously. We have both the men and women participating in going to the field. If you're on water, we take our safety also very seriously. And in training, we also want to equip, as you can see from the picture, a very youthful group being trained for forest monitoring for future implementation of RED Plus. So we take inclusive participation and gender sensitiveness very, very seriously as part of our process. Then with beneficiaries of the RED Plus process in Ghana, we have what we call the hotspot intervention areas, which we call the HIA, hotspot intervention areas. So these are the people that are at the forefront of forest management, the farmer groups, the communities, the traditional authorities. And also, not just them, we have the government agencies like the Forestry Commission, the Cocoa Board, the Metropolitan, Municipal, and District Assemblies that are communicating and working together as the government representatives. We have the private sector, the cocoa buying companies and other chocolate companies and other private sector companies, the fertilizer and all of that in the landscape that we have identified as different beneficiaries of the RED Plus program. And the benefits comes in both carbon benefits, which is monetary and non-monetary goods and services, and that we received as part of the payments under the performance-based mechanism we are under. Then we also have the non-carbon benefits, which is in the form of non-financial benefits, but in-kind benefit that will also accrue to people on the ground instead of the benefits they are getting from the payment from the carbon fund. So we can see that farmers are getting improved yield. They are getting shade on their farm. They're also getting some non-timber forest products and all of that. All of these are also other benefits that comes with the implementation of FREL and forest management, aside the payment of carbon fund that we also get. So we try to categorize the different type of beneficiary, what benefits they are going to get. So with farmers, for instance, we are looking at both non-monetary benefits. They are going to get farm input packages to support climate change, climate smart cocoa production. And also with the traditional authority, those that are more or less the landowners and people taking care of the land ownership, we also give them some incentive for them to allow farmers to engage in climate smart agriculture practices. And the the other government agencies get some bit of both monetary and non-monetary benefits to support the logistical implementation of the whole project. On the non-carbon benefits, for instance, as you can see for not registered farmer groups, they are getting input, they're also getting financial credits, they are getting increased yields and incomes through the adoption of the climate smart cocoa practices. And for monetary, as they increase in yield, they are also getting increased incomes from the cocoa production. And they also are getting improved tree and land tenure security as well. And for the traditional authority, they are looking at how we improve on their landscape governance and management as we come to the landscape. So it continues for the different parties like Cocoa Board as a government entity in charge of regulating the cocoa industry. They get more cocoa beans to also sell, and also sale of the climate smart cocoa beans at a premium price. And for the private sector, we are looking at how they also meet their sustainability targets and also achieving their goals as staying in business to always get the beans that they need to also give to their clients. So I'll just give a brief update on the fund flow and the benefit sharing. As I earlier mentioned, we are looking at attracting about 15 million USD in terms of the RED Plus payment under the cocoa program. And for this, we say 69% of that is going into communities and members. And that we are sharing that as to the hotspot intervention areas. 58% will go to the farmer groups, 3% to the traditional authorities, and 39% to the communities for projects that will have benefits for the whole community. And government only gets 27%, and also the sharing is done. And we have the project management unit also having the project running costs fixed there. So you can see that with one project, we are affecting the different levels of governance, right from the top to the bottom, where the farmers that are at the forefront of helping us to achieve the emission reductions are getting benefits for their effort they put in the landscape. And we ask who qualifies as a farmer beneficiary. We are looking at people that are engaged in climate smart cocoa farming, people that also willing to move from the monoculture cocoa to shaded cocoa production systems, and are integrating forestries on their farms and fallow lands. And people that what makes them important is that they hold the customary rights to the farmlands based on their customer agreements. And we are looking at how they agree to change their behavior in terms of forest conversion and on-farm shade tree management, because it is what they do that will either lead to deforestation and forest degradation. So it is by changing of the behavior of these farmers that we're able to get the emission reductions. So these people that are engaged in the different processes are who we see as the beneficiaries. And what roles are we requiring of these farmer groups and communities? First of all is to adopt climate smart cocoa farming practices, including the management of shade trees on their farms and farmlands. They should avoid encroachment into forest areas for farming activities or illegal logging or illegal mining. And they should also comply with the hotspot intervention areas, the landscape bylaws and management plan, and also tending the trees that have been grown. And with all of this, we also do give them some form of training and capacity building. So some reflections that I want us to consider for discussion. As a country, we see that continuous capacity building and training in forest monitoring is very crucial. And also the continuous collection, processing, and sharing of these quality data transparently is also very crucial to enhance the transparency and also knowledge sharing across board. And we also at the point where we are considering both the blend of national data sets and also global open data sets. On benefits, it is very difficult also sometimes fulfilling the needs of every farmer, and how do we register every farmer within that landscape and keep everyone satisfied, and also avoiding duplication of registration. So my concluding notes, I'll say that we participating and also having continuous learning and knowledge sharing to adopt best practices around the world, as we are doing today in sharing knowledge and also experiences, is really helping us to ensure high transparency and also high integrity carbon accounting and forest monitoring systems. And as a country, we look forward to sharing our experiences with others, also learning from the best practices out there to better ourselves and better our systems. So thank you very much for listening and taking part in this knowledge sharing. I'm open for some questions and recommendations. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jacob. That was super interesting. I took a lot of notes. I hope all the rest also enjoyed it. We are now open for questions, so you can just write them in the chat or raise your hand and speak out loud. I actually have a lot of questions with me, so I can just maybe start with some of them, but then also obviously want to open the floor for others. But Jacob, I was wondering, because you talked a lot of RED+, and I think you have a lot of experiences with the RED+ program, which is amazing. And you presented a lot of benefits that you have from the RED+ program. But I was wondering also from your experiences, what are the challenges in implementing RED+, and maybe what are also shortcomings in the RED+ program? Maybe you can elaborate a bit on that.
Okay, so do we take more than we answer, or should I go each question that I answer?
I think you can just start now, as we don't have any other questions in the chat. So okay, just start with that and then we'll see.
Okay, great. For every good process, I would say that there are challenges, definitely. And maybe I didn't talk so much on the challenges. We've had, as even in my reflection points, on how to keep every stakeholder satisfied, because I mentioned that the program is covering on 5.9 million hectares, and the population size there is quite huge. Not every one of that is a cocoa farmer, but you know, with farmers, when one see that one person is getting any benefits, they also want to benefit whether they are part of that project or not. So even with the farmer registration process that we are doing, it's quite difficult to say that you include this person or not. Just someone would have 2 or 3 cocoa farms, someone would not have a cocoa farm at all, but would still want to benefit because he is in that landscape that has been committed to that project, and can say that he not going to cut a forest is also leading to the emission reductions. So these are some of the things that we, when we go down there in talking about the benefit sharing, we need to look at how we speak, teach the language that we don't throw so much of expectation on the carbon payment, because that payment in itself is negligible. It's just an incentive for us to keep managing our forest sustainably, and not a full payment for all the efforts that we are putting in managing forest. So this is one key challenge in how do we package the language that it is so attractive for people to still continue in climate smart agriculture that does not go into the forest frontiers, but are also willing to protect the forest within their landscape for most often the non-carbon benefits. So that is one key challenge. And also on the issue of land tenure, it's also very critical in our landscape because land is owned differently in different parts of the country. And we have people owning land on their own. We have people that are into sharecropping where the land is owned by another person, but they do the farming and share the proceeds of that farm. They share into 2 or 3, depending on the arrangement they have. So the rights or the ability to even incorporate trees on that land sometimes become difficult because who then becomes the owner of that tree to benefit from carbon proceeds? Because the landowner is there, the one that is tending the tree that has been planted is also there. So these are some of the challenges that we are having in terms of implementation of REDD+, but we're also doing very well in looking at this from the farmer group perspective, where we try to bring different people together under one umbrella and speak to landowners about the benefits that would also come to them if they also help even the migrant farmers to participate in some of these programs. I think maybe as we go along with the discussion, I'll throw in some of the challenges. And in terms of gender, dealing with the community level also has its own dynamics. Once we are going into, you have to also respect the culture. You have to respect their taboos and all of that. So sometimes you'd want to have maybe parity in terms of gender in your program. But once we have, sometimes you have a focus group discussion and there's the chief of that community or a very vocal person as a man there, it becomes challenging for the women to also voice out their challenges. So how to handle the gender balance sometimes is also very crucial for us. And for that, as I said, sometimes we have to segregate the groupings and have focused group discussion for each of the gender groupings. So that is also one way we are trying to deal with that challenge. And now, one major challenge we are having as a country is that once there was an announcement by the World Bank that Ghana has received the first payment for carbon, everyone was so excited, like there's money, let's go for our share. So all of the people that were not really enthusiastic about this whole carbon stuff now start trooping into the office like, oh, we've heard there's some goodies here, we need our portion, and how do we partake in it? And now everyone wants to do carbon. And this is how difficult it's getting, that we try to package our language well and still talk to people that though we are going into this package, this will be their role, this is their responsibility, and this is how they can participate to benefit. So it is one thing that we are still grappling with, and we are seeking solutions in managing expectations, because that landscape has been committed and we need to appease everyone, but we can't make everyone happy too. So that's the dilemma, the state that we are in now. So if you ask me of the shortcomings and challenges, I'll say these are the few I'll throw for now.
Wow, great. Thank you very much. It was a lot of different facets, and I think also a lot of issues that are probably global, not only regarding Ghana, but like land tenure or traditional communities or culture is always an issue when implementing a project. So thank you very much for sharing your insight into that. We got a question in the chat from Jacob Said. I'm just gonna read it out to you. What is your plan in sharing and publishing the microdata from forest inventory surveys to the public to encourage more data use, research, and policy development? Are you willing to share the microdata with FAO so that these microdata can be published in the Food and Agriculture Microdata Catalog?
Great, thank you, Jakob, namesake, for that question. Yes, we have always kept that record of transparency. Even in submitting our program documents to the World Bank, we had to attach all of the Excel files that were used in the different calculations, and these were publicly available on the Forestry Commission website. So the different analysis, the data set on the carbon stocks, on the activity data that was used in all of these calculations were already on our website. The National Forest Monitoring System we are developing is the reason for all of these. So we want to have a system that we can transparently display the data sets, even if it is not in the format that one person needs it. We still have an access and people can ask for such a data set. So if you have some land use map, if you have done some forest inventories and all of that, these data sets are in reports and these reports are very much available. So for the inventory that I talked about between 2010 and 2012, for instance, if you go online, you may have that report, a very detailed report over 200 pages. So whoever is willing to get in touch is willing, we can also share these data sets. We've not maybe given all of this data to FAO because we are also trying to develop that NFMS so that we can put these things out as a country. Then people can either do their own analysis online or can reach out via email on that platform to request for the metadata behind whatever has been published. So Jakob, that's what I'll say for now. We are willing to share our data, and I can assure you that I've seen publications that have made use of the data sets that, for instance, under the COCO program, I've seen different publications that people have used the data we provided for a publication, a full paper. And I feel even more glad seeing that our effort is also enriching research out there, and people are querying and making sure that whatever we put out there also meets international standards and peer review. So yes, we are willing to share, but it is also to be shared in a way and manner that respects the data privacy and data rights and all of that, because these data sets are contributed to by different groups, the private sector and other people that we also need to.
Great. Sorry, I think I muted you for a second. I'm sorry, Jacob. Thank you for that answer. That was also great to see that your data is used and also, yeah, only been used in reports. Are there any other questions in the audience? Someone who wants to speak up, raise a question? Yes, Nicolas.
Yes, thank you, Julie. First, I will ask to Jacob that maybe could stop share his screen, so we can see you bigger on ours. Thank you. So you share a very interesting slide about the flow of money, which is crucial to develop these kind of activities. Could you share a little bit more insight about the importance of RESPLATs and other programs to achieve these climate goals under the UNFCCC? Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, great, Nicholas. In terms of benefit sharing, you know, once anyone is involved in a different project, it is always, as humans, we always want to know what's in for us before we join anything, whether it's monetary or non-monetary. So we had to do an extensive research on who the different stakeholders are within that landscape, which group of people contribute directly or indirectly towards emission reductions. And to develop that, we need to ask them how they wanted the sharing arrangements to be like. So this was done through an extensive research that was given out on consultancy to go to the field, meet the chiefs, meet the community members, meet private sector, meet people from academia and research and all of that. So once all of the different engagements was done, then that sharing arrangements was agreed on. It was brought to the national level with stakeholders from the field also and at the national level invited to validate that benefit sharing arrangement. And I should say that that arrangement is only for the COCO program. It is not for entirely all the RED Plus program that we are having. So for each program that we intend to bring on board, there will have to be another research that looks at the benefit sharing arrangement, because each landscape is quite unique. The players in that landscape are unique and their needs may be different from what those in the COCO area have requested. And in participating in the different projects and also looking at how the mitigation component goes, it is what we achieve that we are also able to report on as part of our nationally determined contributions towards the fight against climate change. So the cocoa program, for instance, and the Share Landscape project have been included in Ghana's nationally determined contributions, because we believe that as a country, we are very lucky that 95% of the Carbon Fund participants agree that Ghana can retire the emission reductions on our NDCs. That is a good thing for the country. So the various inputs from the farmers, from the community people, and all of these stakeholders that are getting benefits, they are also helping the country meet its targets in terms of contributing to the fight against climate change globally. So it's not just about getting a benefit from the projects as carbon payments, but they're also contributing to a national and a global goal. And that is something that is sort of a real essence to me. And to me, anytime I'm out there in the field, I speak more to the non-carbon benefits. As a farmer, you get shade when you are farming on your field. You don't get so stressed with the sun and the heat that is there. The microclimate that is also created that supports the productivity on your farm. It's also very, very much helpful for the farmers. And then on timber forest products, these farmers get some mushrooms, some snails and rattans and canes also for their furniture and all of that. They get some firewood for energy purposes and all of that. So we want to imbibe in our people the culture of forest conservation and protection and enhancing carbon stocks within their own areas, so that the microclimate for every place can be very much improved, and the ecosystem services can be very much improved, and also support the nutrient cycling to support their existence there as farmers. So with benefits, this is what I can say, and this is also going a long way to help us meet our targets for the UNFCCC.
Great. Thank you for that answer. We have maybe time for a short last question, if there is one more in the audience. Maybe otherwise, just to round it up then, as you're also an IFSA alumni or a former IFSA member, I was just wondering, do you have any advice for a young person, for a young student who wants to pursue a career in forest transparency or REDD+? Do you have any short advices, or that something you would share from your experience?
Yeah, great. I'll say that as a person, I've never regretted being in the natural resource space and working towards something that contributes to nature, especially in the climate space. And in developing oneself, I've said that we should look beyond just the school and what we can achieve even outside the walls of our schools. So as I mentioned earlier, I started participating very much actively in IFSA when I was a student. So I got to know of most of the opportunities out there. And I think IFSA gives that platform. I'll say my shaping and development as maybe a presenter, as a speaker and all of that was also made very much influenced by my participating in IFSA programs, and also having the platform to present to plenary on behalf of IFSA. All of these have shaped my personality, and I'll say that as young people out there, whenever we have that opportunity to represent IFSA, to represent our institutions or our career, we should be bold and also very ready to take that, because it is in all of that that is shaping us to become the experts that we will be in. And as a member of the roster of experts for UNFCCC, I will encourage all the young people that are doing something related to forestry and climate change to register on their different countries' roster of experts, speak to the national focal points, and because it is in participating in this series of education by the UNFCCC that you get to understand the processes better, and it even influences how you appreciate your school curriculum better, because it is when I started doing the examination for the UNFCCC and getting to know that how we have to even reports to the UNFCCC in terms of our climate reports. All of these have shaped my thoughts in understanding the process and contributing better. So there are a lot of options out there. FAO is doing great in giving young people the platform. And I should say that people should also take internships very seriously, because it is in that you get to build yourself for the job market out there. So this is my little advice for everyone.
Perfect. Thank you very much for sharing your experiences, and also for the presentation. It was super interesting. I also read a message in the chat that the Northern African region is going to reach out to you. So I think we will also have, some.
Yeah, I'm always glad to assist them.
Perfect. Yes. Nico already posted in the chat that we have a third webinar series coming up. But before talking a bit about that, I want to give the word to Rocio, who also wants to say, a few words in this webinar. Thank you very much, Jacob.
Welcome.
Thank you very much, Julika. And first of all, again, thanks, Jacob, for accepting being part of the webinar series. As you have heard, he has been member of the IFSA, and today he's with us as a country representative. So that's fantastic, really. Jacob, thanks for sharing with us the experience from Ghana. And actually, your presentation has shown us the importance of forest data transparency. And let me take advantage of this space and invite you all to delve deeper into this subject of forest data transparency. FAO has made educational material available that might contribute to this end, including self-paced courses in forest and transparency under the Paris Agreement, National Forest Inventory e-learning modules. And soon we will be launching a series of forest monitoring self-paced courses. So please follow us. Let me summarize this webinar and share some concluding remarks with all of you. Since 2008, Ghana has implemented activities for reducing emissions from deforestation and forest degradation. In 2016, as Jacob mentioned, a RED+ strategy was developed, which served as a roadmap to undertake RED+ program across the landscapes of Ghana. And today, Jacob shared with us the progress and achievements, and also the challenges so far on RED+, but also highlight how Ghana is developing a multi-purpose national forest monitoring system from the subnational level in a phased approach to the national level to enhance transparency. He has also talked on how Ghana has mainstreamed gender and led an inclusive participation on RED+ process. Let me conclude by saying that forests are vital to life. They play a central role in combating climate change by absorbing and storing carbon from the atmosphere in their vegetation and soils. Climate change and other mounting pressures on forests make forest monitoring absolutely critical. So we need to ensure and have, of course, accurate, reliable, and transparent data to better understand the potential of forests for climate action and make the right decisions to protect and sustainably manage forests. The Paris Agreement is a milestone in global efforts to limit climate change under the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change. And also under this agreement, countries report their climate actions, including the protection of forest resources. And this work is being guided under the Enhanced Transparency Framework, designed actually to promote transparency and mutual trust between countries by encouraging information sharing. To collect, analyze, and disseminate forest-related data, countries have put in place national forest monitoring systems from which data and information is derived. Therefore, countries have made substantial progress, and you have seen that from Ghana as well, in developing and enhancing their national forest monitoring systems, which now make possible to provide data for decision-making, and I would have to add, to share data transparently with all the world. It is crucial to make these efforts visible and inform students and young professionals about the advances in forest data transparency. So hopefully we can see you all in our third episode and learn more about the progress in the Asia Pacific region. So thanks to all, thanks to IFSA, and see you on the 13th of July. Back to you.
Thank you. I'll see you. Yes, thank you for your words. Yeah, very important and very interesting that you also provide e-learning materials, and we are more than happy to share those with the IFSA family. Thank you everyone for being here. Thank you, Jacob, for your time and your presentation. It was very interesting. And yeah, I hope I will see you all on the third episode. Thank you very much.
Thank you, and it was a pleasure. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you.